Hello, I'm Christina Soontornvat, and I am the author of the Diary of an Ice Princess chapter book series and the graphic novel The Tryout, among many other books for kids. And I'm here to talk about my new series for middle grade readers. It's a fantasy and adventure series of stories that's called The Legends of Lotus Island. And the first book in the series is called The Guardian Test. So on Lotus Island is a training academy where kids come from all over the islands to learn how to transform into fantastical creatures that are sworn to protect the natural world. And in the first book, you will meet Plum, who's the main character, and Plum is selected to go to Lotus Island. And when she's there, she meets some friends, she makes a couple enemies, and she also starts to wonder, does she really even belong there? Because she's super different from all of the other kids, and she's really worried that she's not going to be able to pass the first test, and she's not going to be able to fulfill her destiny to become a guardian. So we'll have to see if that happens. So I'm going to read from the first chapter of the book. And the first chapter takes place on Plum's home island. Worms always think they know everything. Come on, friends, not there by the squash. You want to be over here by these chai melons, trust me. I scooped the worms out of the dark, fluffy soil and set them down near the chai melon vine. There, now make that dirt good and soft because I want to eat some big fat melons this summer. I stood up and walked around our garden. The eggplant and crisp cumbers were doing great this year. And of course, our chili plants and snake beans were growing wild, as always. But my main concern was our fruit trees. This year, I was determined that we would have everything. Jackfruit, mangoes, tea fruit, rosy apples, and even stinky durian. I heard a rustling in the mango leaves. Oh, sorry to wake you, I whispered to the family of foxbats that hung upside down sleeping. Now, don't forget what we agreed. You get the mangoes up top and leave the low stuff for us, okay? The mama foxbat yawned and shut her eyes again. A couple of years ago, they nibbled bites out of every mango on our tree. But now that I'd convinced Grandpa to take down the nets, they only took the fruit that was too high for us to reach. In a couple of weeks, it would all start getting ripe. I could practically taste the feast in my mouth. The only fruit we could never seem to grow was plum. I turned around to see Grandma shuffling down the hill toward me. Over here in the orchard, Grandma. Plum, she huffed. Come on up to the house, dear. Is everything okay? Of course it is, she said, but I saw the corner of her mouth twitch. She always did that when she wasn't telling me the whole story. I wondered what was going on, but I knew better than to pester her. I let her lean on my shoulder as we walked slowly back up the hill to our house. The cool evening breeze felt so good after a long, sweaty day working in the garden. As always, we paused in the one spot where we could see the entire island. Our little wooden house and barn stood at the top of the hill. The garden and orchard were down below near the freshwater spring. On the other side, Grandpa's rice field sloped down to the coconut grove, and all around the blue ocean sparkled. The sun was starting to set, the foxbats were waking up, and the swallows were already swooping overhead. I imagined them calling out to us, "Day is done, day is done, time for night." "Good night," I called up to them. "Don't forget our deal about the mangoes." Out on the water, I spotted the little blue postal boat zipping back toward Big Crab Island. My stomach did a flip. We almost never got mail. I glanced at Grandma for some hint as to what was going on, but her face was like a stone. Before we got to the house, Grandma patted my hand. "Oh, and tomorrow remind me that I need your help with the wheelbarrow. The chai melon bed is full of rocks, and we've got to move them so the worms can get in." I looked back to the garden and shook my head. those worms were never going to let me hear the end of this. All right, that's the first chapter. So I wonder what that postal boat was bringing to Plum. It has to be some piece of mail, right? So I wonder what it says. I wonder what's going to happen. And you can find out in the Legends of Lotus Island, The Guardian Test, with beautiful illustrations by Kevin Hong. Thanks.